Jay Leno owns one of the most famous car collections on Earth, and for over a decade, his YouTube channel has taken millions of fans inside that sprawling Burbank facility to see steam cars, rare Duesenbergs, custom builds, and million-dollar machines that most people will never touch. The cameras roll, the engines roar, and Jay walks you through every detail with the kind of encyclopedic memory that makes you feel like you're standing right there with him. But what if the most interesting part of his collection has never made it to film? What if behind all those polished floors and perfect lighting, there's a room Jay deliberately keeps off camera, not because it's forbidden, but because the cars inside don't have the kind of stories you tell on YouTube? This isn't about secrecy for the sake of drama. Walk into any serious collector's garage and you'll find the same thing. A section where the weird stuff lives, the projects that didn't work out, the machines that came with conditions attached. Jay's hidden room works the same way, except his collection happens to include prototypes from automakers who went bankrupt, experimental builds covered by non-disclosure agreements, and vehicles so early in development they never even got VIN numbers. Some were gifted by engineers who wanted their work preserved after the company killed the project. Others arrived late at night with notes that said things like, "Please keep this safe. It's all that's left of our dream." Fans have picked up on the clues. In one episode from years back, the camera panned too wide and caught a wedge-shaped silhouette under a tarp that didn't match anything Jay had ever shown before. Reddit threads exploded with theories, some claiming it was a Bertone concept, others insisting it was an unreleased Ford GT mule. Jay never mentioned it again. Another time, he casually referenced a car I can't really talk about when discussing alternative fuels, and that single comment launched weeks of speculation about a hydrogen-powered prototype tied up in patent disputes. Then there's the blooper reel where a staff member opens a plain gray door, immediately shuts it, and the footage cuts away, but frame-by-frame analysis revealed unpainted body panels, a low-slung chassis, and handwritten notes taped to the wall. The room itself sits behind an unmarked industrial door at the far end of the garage complex. No signage, no plaques, just concrete and silence. Former crew members and close friends of the Leno team describe it as dim, unpolished, and raw, nothing like the LED-lit museum most people associate with Jay's name. Insiders sometimes call it the vault or the lower bay, and guests who've toured the facility rarely get access. The ones who do tend not to speak publicly about what they saw, partly out of respect and partly because they understand what Jay is actually doing in there. Among the rumored contents sits a mid-engine Corvette prototype from the early 90s, a one-off test mule allegedly given to Jay by a retired GM executive after the project died and vanished from public record. Somewhere nearby rests a student-built Chrysler turbine shell, nothing more than fiberglass body panels with experimental turbine fittings and a note taped to the dash reading, "Do not start." Sources claim Jay also holds an off-the-books Lamborghini prototype from the early 2000s that failed crash testing so badly, the company never showed it to the public and quietly handed it off rather than scrap it. Then there's the first-generation Tesla mule featuring early battery tech and a salvaged Lotus shell, reportedly a personal favor from Elon Musk, who requested it never appear online due to intellectual property concerns. Beyond those headline pieces, the room supposedly houses hydrogen fuel cell trials, defunct rotary engine experiments, and electric vehicles that predate Tesla's Roadster by nearly 10 years. None of them run perfectly. Some don't run at all. A few lack proper documentation, registration, or even legal status in the United States. Jay doesn't display them because their stories aren't finished, and in his own words, he doesn't just show off cars, he tells stories, and not every car has a story worth telling yet. What makes this collection different from the polished Bugattis and legendary muscle cars out front comes down to purpose. Jay has always gravitated toward machines that dared to think differently. The turbine-powered sedans from the 60s that tried to replace internal combustion entirely, or the rotary engine prototypes built by now-defunct engineering firms and abandoned when funding dried up. Chrysler only built a handful of turbine cars, most got destroyed, but rumor suggests Jay rescued one of the engineering shells from a private estate sale and keeps it preserved exactly as he found it. Never restored, just protected. Then there's the rotary engine unlike anything Mazda ever released, designed in partnership with a company that folded before the project could finish. Jay didn't feature it in his rotary collection episode, but people who've been in the back say it's real and still sitting there. Beyond that, the room supposedly holds 3D printed subframes, partial hydrogen builds, and early aerodynamic test beds, cars with no headlights, unfinished interiors, bizarre silhouettes used solely for wind tunnel trials and range testing. Jay keeps them because they represent the leap, the moment someone tried to do the impossible. They're not glamorous and they'll never look good on camera, but to a gearhead like him, they're priceless. Some of these vehicles aren't just forgotten, they're legally sensitive. Certain concept cars were never meant to be sold or driven outside the manufacturer's facility. Others came with strings attached, verbal agreements, handshake deals, conditions that Jay honors even now. The Tesla Mule, for example, uses experimental battery technology and internal wiring schematics that were never patented, and Musk reportedly asked Jay to keep it locked away. Another European concept built for a Geneva motor show that got cancelled at the last minute sits in the collection after Jay acquired it through a quiet no-press transaction. The car uses advanced composites and active aerotech that were ahead of their time, but showcasing it now could reignite legal entanglements with the original investors. Even more delicate are the prototype safety vehicles, automobiles that failed federal crash tests or were never tested at all. These can't legally be titled or driven on American roads, and Jay keeps them off camera to avoid regulatory scrutiny. Beyond the legal complications, though, sits a deeper principle. Jay has put it simply, some cars are private for a reason. They're not mine to explain. Behind every hidden machine is a story that's not always his to tell. Non-disclosure agreements, verbal commitments, personal relationships, all of these shape what makes it to the screen and what stays in the dark. Over time, Jay became something he never set out to be, the guardian of automotive orphans. When a car company closes or a project gets canceled, the vehicles often disappear, scrapped or forgotten. Occasionally they land in Jay's hands, not because he wants to show them off, but because he knows they deserve to be saved. Some of these cars came from grieving families, builders, or designers who passed away before finishing their work. Jay accepted the projects knowing they would never be complete, simply to honor the legacy behind them. Others came as final attempts by dying companies, Hail Mary gifts sent not for display, but for preservation. One letter reportedly read, "It's all that's left of our dream." Then there are the projects Jay took on personally, wild ideas even his own team didn't understand. Early experiments in electric vehicle conversions, compressed air engines, hybrid manual automatic gearboxes. Some worked, most didn't, but Jay never threw them away because to him, being a collector isn't about polish, it's about preservation. Every dent tells a story, every failed project whispers something no finished car ever could. And for someone who spent his life chasing not just performance but meaning, this is the part of the garage that matters most. The room is his quiet rebellion, a way of saying that machines matter even when they don't make it to the showroom floor. A turbine engine prototype that never worked still testifies to bold thinking. A hydrogen car that couldn't pass emissions still represents a turning point. A forgotten concept with a half-finished interior still reflects hours or years of work by engineers, artists, and builders whose names we'll never know. Jay doesn't hoard these vehicles out of ego, and he doesn't lock them up because they're flawed. He keeps them because they matter, and if he didn't, they'd be crushed, scrapped, lost to time. Understanding the secret garage means understanding Jay Leno himself. He's not just a collector, he's a historian, a steward, someone who values what's important over what's popular. Sometimes importance doesn't come wrapped in chrome or documented in history books. It comes in failure, in innovation that didn't pan out, in the unseen edges of possibility. The hidden room isn't about exclusivity, it's about empathy for the car that never got finished, for the prototype that scared off investors, for the dream that sat in storage, waiting for someone to understand it. Walking through that room means walking through a different kind of automotive history, one that isn't told in auctions or documentaries, but in failures, ideas, and almosts. It's the opposite of showbiz, quiet, dusty, sacred. Every car in there once carried the hope of someone who believed they could change the world. And now in silence, Jay Leno gives those machines the one thing they never got, a home. No guided tour, no flashing lights or polished chrome, just a plain door, a room behind a room, and inside a symphony of forgotten ambition.